What is up, you guys? My name's Sir, and welcome to another part or episode or whatever you want to call it of the deck list, the Pokemon deck list. Right, it's been quite a while since I've done a deck list, since the Primarina GX. Yes, that's a long time ago. That's an ancient deck. That deck is probably dust by now, all the cards as well, because this is so old. Well, you know what all the saying is, out with the old and in with the new. And today we're going to start off with the new, and I have a deck list for the Raging Bolt EX deck, which is the brand new card that just came out in the Temporal Forces set of the Pokemon TCG. So without further ado, let's just straight into the deck list. So first off, my deck list will have to have at least probably like 3, well, you can have more if you want, but I personally have 3 copies of Raging Bolt EX. The reason why you want 3 copies of Raging Bolt EX, because I feel like 3 is probably the sweet spot of having at least, you don't really want too much of main attackers, but some decks you do need more than 3 main attackers. But personally, the sweet spot for my Raging Bolt is 3, and if you guys want to know its attack, I'll bring one card up, and you guys can read its attack. Raw Burst, discard your hand and draw 6 cards. Yeah, sorry, I have to lean over. And Bellowing Thunder, for 70 times, you may discard any amount of basic energy from your Pokemon, so not just this Pokemon, any of your Pokemon on your bench. And this attack does 70 damage for each card you discard in this way, which is a very, very good attack for Raging Bolt, which will make you do high hit numbers, and it's just a brilliant card for you to obviously with the headliner of the new set. Right, for support, you're going to need 3 copies of Sandy Shocks. Now, Sandy Shocks has came out in the Paradox Rift expansion last, I think, before Christmas in November. Sandy Shocks is vital to have in the deck list because Sandy Shocks has a great ability, which basically, when your opponent takes 2 prize cards, or the opponent has 4 or fewer prize cards remaining, his ability activates and allows him to basically grab fighting energy from my discard pile to that Pokemon. And that is technically the main fuel for Raging Bolt for his attack. Discard any amount of energy attached to this Pokemon. So you can literally just attach. Literally almost like 280 damage, or probably 330 damage, I think, somewhere around there. Is above the 300 damage for just even having 2 energies on Raging Bolt and 3 energies each on, well, 1 energy each on the Sandy Shocks EX. So it's a very, very good support for the Raging Bolt. Now, you got the Squawk EX, Squawk Ability EX, just in case if you have a dead hand at the start of the game and you just need an extra, draw power of having a fresh hand and new cards you need for obviously either Raging Bolt or Sandy Shocks or any other cards you need. It's basically a need for these type of decks. Now, you're going to need the Minion V in this deck, because it allows me to basically place it from my hand onto the bench, and when I do that, it will activate its ability by basically me grabbing a supporter from my deck into my hand and then shuffle it in just to get, the supporters into my hand. And now I'll explain to you what the supporters are in this deck list in a minute, why this is in here. And also, you're going to need a Mew EX for his restart ability. Basically, if I have basically less than 3 cards, I can draw cards until I have 3 cards in my hand. Just in case if I'm a bit short on my hand draws. Hand draws, but if I'm a bit short, I can just draw more cards and get into my hand. Now, for discarding energy, which is the main fuel for this, was not the main fuel, but it's part of the main fuel. You're going to need at least 1, so you can only have 1. Radiant Greninja. Radiant Greninja is very good for this type of deck. His ability allows me to basically discard an energy from my hand. If I do, I get to draw 2 more cards. Again, with the draw engine, you're going to need as much cards in your hand as possible. And then for his sort of second main attacker, you got Koraidon just normal Koraidon from the Temporal Forces expansion. Basically, we're going to make you mainly using his first attack, Powerful Beatdown. This attack does 30 more damage for each ancient Pokemon in play. So if you have a full bench and an active spot, that's like, what, 150 damage for fighting and a colorless energy. So that is pretty good for about 140 HP Pokemon that is not an EX. Amazing, amazing second attacker. Right, we're going to be moving on to supporters. Now, this is why we need to discard as much energy as we can, much energy cards as we can, as we're going to have 4 copies of Professor Sadus Vitality. Professor Sadus Vitality is the supporter you will need for any ancient deck. It's literally probably the gold standard of supporters now. Professor Sadus Vitality, what it does is basically choose up to my 2 ancient Pokemon, and I get to attach a basic energy card from my discard pile to each of those ancient Pokemon. If I do, I get to draw 3 more cards, which is basically the main support. So you're going to keep using again and again just to get all the energies fueled up for Raging Bolt's EX attack. Now for getting the your opponent's active Pokemon in play to kill, very easy, very quickly, you know, the ones you need to kill, you're going to have 2 copies of Boss's Orders. Now, I chose to put 2 Boss's Orders into my deck just because I feel like 4-3 is a bit too much, because we need more extra room for my other cards to get into this deck. So I went for the sweet spot and chose 2 copies of Boss's Orders. Now, for Recycle Draw Engine, or just to disrupt your opponent's hand, you're going to have 1 copy of Iono. Now, people will probably advise we get more than 1 copy of Iono, but I feel like 1 Iono is probably more than enough, because we're not really going to use Iono that much unless you want to disrupt your opponent's hand, because we're going to mainly use the Professor Sadus Vitality supporter, just mainly. Now, for the item cards, we're going to use 3 copies of Earthen Vessel, which allows me to basically, I can only allow to use it if I discard a card in my hand, which could be an energy or a dud card, which could be squawk ability. And I get to search my deck for 2 more energy cards and obviously put those energy cards into my hand, then shuffle my deck. Very, very good item card indeed for you to recycle energies and discard energies and so on. Now, for you to get those basic Pokemon onto my bench, you're going to need 4 copies of my Nest Ball. Well, not my Nest Ball, but you're going to need 4 copies of Nest Balls. 4 copies of Nest Balls, obviously, I feel like it's probably the sweet spot, because since most of our Pokemon is basic, I don't really think you really need an Ultra Ball just to search them out, because I feel like Ultra Ball is not really the best idea for this type of deck for you to search your Pokemon out. So I feel like Nest Ball is basically a brilliant item card to search out your basic Pokemon. And even though I mentioned Ultra Ball, we're going to have 4 copies of Ultra Ball. You know, just the reason why we have Ultra Ball in here, so basically we can keep failing to search our Pokemon, or you want to search a Pokemon, but it's mainly Ultra Ball wants to discard energy cards. You're going to need it to fuel up Professor Sadus Vitality. And we're going to have 4 copies of, well, not 4 copies, we're going to have 3 copies of Pokegear 3.0. Basically allows us to search basically draw 7 cards, and in those 7 cards you can reveal a supporter you'll find in there, put that supporter into your hand, then shuffle the rest of the cards into your deck. These cards are mainly used to search out Professor Sadus Vitality or Boss's Orders, mainly just to, you know, to get that extra fuel. Now, for searching some of the cards out that you need, or discarding energy cards if you go through your deck, I would say you're going to need 3 copies of Trek and Choose. Trek and Choose, what it does is basically look at the top card of your deck. You can keep it and put it into your hand, or if you don't want it, you can put it into the discard pile, and if you do it in that way, you draw an extra card, which is probably the best way to discard, well, not the best, but one of the good ways to basically discard. If the top card is an energy card, you can discard it if you don't want it, but if you, obviously if it isn't, you keep it. Right, for us to get our energies from Sandy Shocks, because when he uses ability, he has to grab the fire energy from the discard pile onto that Pokemon. And how we're going to get the energy from that Sandy Shocks EX to Raging Bolt EX? 3 copies of Energy Switch. Basically, just switches energy from each Pokemon anywhere you like. Great item card for you to use in the Raging Bolt. Now, since I haven't got Switch card, I have to go for the budget version because Switch card is so hard now to get a hold of nowadays. I would say 2 copies of Switch, just in case if our opponent uses a boss's orders on us. And for us to recycle our Pokemon and energy cards, I will say you're going to need 1 copy of Super Rod. Super Rod allows us to shuffle free in any combination of Pokemon or energy, basic energy. Put that in, shuffle it into my deck, and basically, yeah, I just explained it. And for us to get Professor Sadus back, Boss's Orders and Ino, I will say 1 copy of Power Pad. Basically allows us to shuffle 2 supporter cards from my deck. Well, not my deck, but shuffles 2 support cards from my discard pile into my deck. And then basically keep recycling Professor Sadus Vitality, Boss's Orders, or in this case, Ino. Right, Pokemon Tool cards. I will say 2 copies of Ancient Boost Energy Capsule. For those who don't know what it does, basically if you attach it to one of your Ancient Pokemon, it allows it to get 60 more HP, which Raging Bolt EX has 240 HP, so 60, that'll be 300 HP, so it's a very powerful Pokemon for you to take out. It's going to at least take a 2-shot to knock it out. And plus, no one can basically have it burn, poison, confused, paralysis, sleep, and the rest of it. Because of this card's ability, we just deny it. Right, for us to, just in case if you have any ancient Pokemon like Sandy Shocks or any Pokemon we need in prize cards that's not in your deck, I'll say 1 copy of Heavy Ball, which allows us to basically go for our prize cards, reveal Pokemon in those prize cards, take it from your hand and swap it with that card and shuffle your prize cards and put it in any combination you like. Well, not any combination, but you know what I mean. Right, for us to switch out our opponent's Pokemon from the active to the bench, I'll say 1 copy of, well, you can have 1 copy, you can only have 1 copy in here because it's an A-Spec. A-Spec Prime Catcher from the Temporal Forces expansion basically allows us to switch in one of your opponent's Pokemon in play. Oh, I said that wrong, so sorry. Switch in one of your opponent's bench Pokemon to the active spot, and if you do, switch your active Pokemon with one of your bench Pokemon, which is probably the best item card. You know, so say like you've got Raging Bolt EX on the bench and Sandy Shocks in the active. Switch your opponent's bench Pokemon that's probably got the most energy or probably the main attacker into the active, force it into the active, and then force your put Raging Bolt into the bench from the active and just one KO it. Stadium cards, I would say 3 copies of Pokestops, because since this deck is very item heavy, just in case we need to get our items into our hand. And also to discard energies as well, which is probably another way to discard energies from the bench and use Sandy Shock's EX ability or Professor Sadus Vitality supporter to gain those energies back and attach it to our Raging Bolts and so on. Now the amount of energies we're going to need for this deck is 4. I'll say about 7 copies of Fighting Energy into this deck, because we're going to need a lot of fighting energies, because obviously since most of our Pokemon's fighting, we're going to need more fighting energies than the other energies. And also for the last of our deck list, we're going to need 3 copies of electric energy. Now the electric energy is also you need to use for a Raging Bolt mainly, and if we do attach it to our Sandy Shocks or any other Pokemon, we do have Energy Switch to switch up those into our Raging Bolt and knock it for 1 KO. So guys, yeah, this is my deck list. I will definitely be using this in the tournaments when the Temporal Forces does become legal, and this is probably gonna be at least maybe one of the top 10 decks, or probably even the top 5 decks that most people are going to use in tournaments. I'm not going to be surprised, because Raging Bolt is such a great, amazing good card. It's such a powerful card for 1KO in this. I've been practicing this deck a lot on TCG Online, and I probably will do a video of my of this deck on the TCG Online because it's such a great deck. It literally knocks everyone out. Yeah, this is going to be my main deck for going to tournaments with, and wish me good luck because this is going to be honest, this is probably this is best than the Roy Moon deck that I made on the Pokemon TCG Online. Not even joke. I think this does surpasses Roy Moon. It does work in a similar way, I would say, because of the ancient Pokemon, but it's probably better than the Roy Moon EX deck that I made on Pokemon TCG Online. But yeah, guys, I think it's a good time to end this deck list. Guys, let's end the video here. So guys, I hope you sincerely enjoyed this video. If you guys haven't already, please hit the like button. No, if you guys haven't already, please hit the subscribe button. If you guys like the video, please hit the like button. There's also a notifications bell. Click on it so you never miss any videos I upload. You can be notified when I do upload videos so you guys don't miss out on my awesome content. And guys, like you always say, this is Hector Noobster signing out.